it's it's something that's really hit us quick and hard in the last couple of years. Right now, Fish and Wildlife Service has developed some guidelines for decontamination of cave gear, cave isolation, and we're doing research to try to learn more about it. But right now it's really just trying to educate the caving community. And
my understanding is this is a nationwide problem, though, not just
it is a nationwide problem. Right now it's only affected certain species. Like I said earlier, it's not affected the gray bat yet. But if it does affect the gray bat, then chances are that it's going to be here in Arkansas within a couple of years. And once it's here and in the caves, it'll affect every species in that cave.
Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things to that, just to think about the scope of this problem. An individual bat can eat about twice its body weight in insects per night. About 1 million bats have died so far, which is really a pretty small proportion of the overall bats. But there's an estimate that right now the bats eat about, I think it's close to 700,000 tons of insects per year. Something along that lines. Now that, you're going to have to get a lot of deed if we lose these bats. But a bigger problem is going to be with agriculture. And that is probably, there's already a lot of interest on this in Washington, D.C. because of that. And there's probably going to be a lot of attention focused on it. We don't know what there can be done right now, because right now they don't know anything to do to control it. But it is a big problem, and the insects are actually a big part of it. It's not just losing the bats, and we may lose bats now that are endangered species. They may become more endangered, or they could go extinct. But common species could become endangered. So you also have another economic hit here, because caving is a fairly big recreation, and we have a few caves now that are cut off from the cavers because of this problem. But if these common species become endangered, it's going to be most of the caves, and that's a big economic hit there. So I mean, it's like a lot of these things. There's so many variables when you start thinking about them. Start with insects, and it gets out of control.
They've not tried to introduce bats or to grow the general population?
But there is actually some talk about trying to do some active propagation, but nobody knows how to do that right now. And you'd have to do the scientific part behind that. Some of these things may disappear in 2 or 3 years, or at least that's the thought. They really don't know. I mean, we could have natural selection that goes on. It can wipe out. The mortality rate on the bats is like 85-95%.
This may be too much detail, but just the idea of captive propagation of bats. A lot of bats have what they call delayed implantation. So they'll become fertilized in fall and then hibernate all winter, and the fertilized embryo will not implant in the womb of the bat until springtime. So that makes captive breeding really way more complicated for them.
The other thing that makes bats extremely susceptible to extinction is their low reproductive rate. Most bats only produce 1 young per year, so they're extremely susceptible to extinction.